Welcome in on a Monday, everybody. I'm Reed Cowan. So our video monitors here behind me bring us turmoil out of the Middle East. That entire region bracing for what could come next as Israel expects Iran and Hezbollah to launch coordinated attacks. Plus, Elon Musk on the stump for Trump. This is CBS News 24/7. Let's go. Right at the top on a Monday, Team Trump and the tech billionaire Elon Musk and Donald Trump streaming a live interview on Musk's social media platform X tonight. Let's bring in CBS News campaign reporter Olivia Rinaldi. She's live in D.C. for us. This is really interesting because once Twitter kicked Donald Trump off the platform, now he's back on the rebranded X. So let's talk about this interview. What's in it for Trump? What's in it for Elon Musk?
Yeah, Reed, he's been using this ban that's been lifted off of his account all day, posting a slew of posts in the last hour. You know, he got banned after January 6th. His account was suspended. He was not allowed to be on Twitter, now known as X. About a month after Elon Musk acquired the company, he reinstated Trump's account. And he only posted on it once. He's instead, posting a lot on his Truth Social platform. He posted on it once last August, and it was a picture of his mugshot after he was arraigned in Fulton County. All day today, he has been posting in anticipation of this interview tonight. And it's notable for a few reasons. One, it's a really, big return for him to the platform, X, formerly known as Twitter. But two, his relationship with Elon Musk. This is something he flexes a lot, especially when I've been on the campaign trail at a few of these various rallies. Trump talks often about his relationship with Musk, how close they are, how even though he doesn't like electric vehicles, he does really like Elon Musk. So this is a very highly anticipated interview. It's tonight at 8 p.m. It'll be the two of them on X, and we're quite interested to see what will happen.
Fascinating that he's doing this in the web space because over the weekend, of course, the conversation from the campaign was that they had been hacked. What do we know about this hack? Who did it and why?
Yeah, the campaign announced on over the weekend that the email, there had been a hacking of their campaign. They immediately blamed Iran. And what's interesting about that is they linked this back to a report from Microsoft that was released on Friday prior to any of this information being known that said in June 2024, Iran's intelligence unit had sent a spear phishing email to a high-ranking official of a presidential campaign. But Microsoft never specified which campaign it was. The Trump campaign is now saying it was their campaign that was hacked. Some key details and information about Senator J.D. Vance before he was chosen to be Trump's running mate was some of the documents that were taken out of that hack and then spread to various news outlets. We are learning a lot about that, and we're hoping to get a little bit more of a readout soon from perhaps intelligence officials about how this happened, how deep this hack went. The Trump campaign, we've reached out to them for comment, but I suspect this is a story that is going to stay with us through November and perhaps beyond, Reed.
Olivia, thank you so much for that update from Washington. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is back in Washington after a full weekend of campaigning and raising cash. She's not only candidate Kamala, she is the Vice President of the United States, traveling with President Joe Biden to Maryland this week. This is going to be their first joint trip since Biden dropped out of the race. It'll be our chance to see them together, not only campaigning, but also doing the business of the people. Now, that decision to leave the race is something the president defended to our Robert Costa. He did that exclusively on CBS Sunday Morning, really reflecting on the core reasons for that decision. Listen.
Well, look, the polls we had showed that it was a neck-and-neck race. Would have been down to the wire. But what happened was a number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought that I was going to hurt them in the races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did someone, and I thought it'd be a real distraction, number one. Number two, when I ran the first time, I thought of myself as being a transition president. I can't even say how old I am. It's hard for me to get it out of my mouth. And, but things got moving so quickly, it didn't happen. And the combination was that I thought it was a critical issue for me, still is not a joke, maintaining this democracy. But I thought it was important because although it's a great honor being president, I think I have an obligation to the country to do the most important thing we can do, and that is we must We must defeat Trump.
So let's bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. Weijia, talk to us about the plans for this week. We understand the president and the vice president will be having their first joint appearance since Biden dropped out. What do we expect to hear from them as we see them together?
So, Reed, this is an official White House event to talk about lowering costs for Americans, which has really been at the heart of what this president has been trying to do as it relates to his economic policies. But of course, because we are just so close to November, every appearance, whether it's official in the White House capacity or not, is an opportunity to campaign. And we expect that they will deliver that message to stress that the vice president will build on the president's policy proposals to try to make life easier for Americans that are just trying to pay their bills and get by. And so this is a big deal, Reed, because we haven't really seen them together since he stepped down from the ticket. He recently was on the tarmac with her when hostages were freed and they welcomed home 3 Americans. But, you know, in this context, it'll be new because we haven't really seen them campaigning together. And we do know that he said in that interview with our colleague Robert Costa that he would also be campaigning in Pennsylvania as well as other swing states coming up. And so this is a chance to see how he talks about the vice president, how he talks about her ideas and his confidence in her to now being the Democratic nominee.
Weijia, I want to drill down on some of the things you talked about. You know, over the weekend, we saw Kamala Harris really drilling down in Las Vegas about eliminating taxes for tips for American workers. And they're also really starting to hit on something that they say are headaches and hassles that drain Americans' resources. Is this a political strategy or is it a genuine concern that we're seeing?
Well, I think it's a mix of both because it's not new. Like I said, the Biden administration has worked a lot on eliminating what they call junk fees. So whether it is extra fees that pop up when you're trying to book a flight or trying to cancel something, whether it is, you know, late fees on your credit card statement, they have really tried to look at areas where they can make it easier for people to recover some of that money. And most recently, they have rolled out a proposal that is called Click to Cancel. And that addresses, Reed, all those times that you go and try to cancel a subscription, whether it's cable, whether it's your gym membership, and it's really not that easy. And the White House says that that's not by accident, that these companies actually want to make it very difficult once you have a cumbersome process. And so in the end, you probably don't even cancel your subscription. So there are different proposals now to force these companies to make it easier so that you can just click one button and cancel. There's another proposal to make it so that you can get a human on the phone right away so that you can talk about canceling your subscription. But this is just an idea right now. It still has to go through a standard process to get approval, but it does sort of show you the different creative ways that they're trying to, you know, put a little bit more money into your wallet, because I think we've all been there, Reed, where you try to cancel something and maybe you just think it's not worth the hassle.
Right, and it adds up, $10.99 a month over a period of a year. That is some juice in our pockets. Weijia Jiang, thank you so much. So from those domestic issues to international issues, when we come back, Middle East seeing the military might and muscle of the United States. Israel bracing for a possible attack by Iran and Hezbollah. And the focus, what is President Biden doing about that? And where does he stand on this potential conflict? CBS News 24/7 back after the break. In the meantime, we'll be watching the monitors. CBS News streaming coast to coast and worldwide with all eyes on an international powder keg, the Middle East. The U.S. sending a submarine to the region, and there is intelligence at this hour predicting a coordinated attack on Israel from Hezbollah and Iran within days. CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio in Tel Aviv now.
Reed, hi there. Israel's military gave an update saying it killed 31 militants at the Al Tabin school and mosque compound in Gaza City that Saturday morning during sunrise prayers. Now, the IDF claimed that the complex, which was being used as a shelter for people displaced in the war, was also being used as a terrorist command center. And today it released a new list of names and photos with red signs over each face saying eliminated. But people at the compound said that there were no militants there. Beyond Israel's immediate border, headquarters here, the country is still on very much high alert for those threatened retaliatory strikes from both Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Every night, I look out of the windows. Every night we look out of the windows, wondering if each night will be the night that they attack. There are media reports here and in the U.S. that say it could happen in the next day, the next few days, but we frankly won't know until it happens. That is, of course, until governments or militaries see signs of launches from Iran or Hezbollah. If they come from Iran, we might have several hours for drones to fly they're about 1,000 miles from Tehran, but maybe only minutes for cruise and ballistic missiles. And if they come from Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is only about 75 miles north of here to the border, we really wouldn't get much notice at all. And at the same time, there is a flicker of hope for ceasefire talks to restart between Israel and Hamas. This Thursday, August 15th, is the date. That was after an urgent call from the U.S. and the mediating countries of Qatar and Egypt. Israel said it would attend, but Hamas just overnight gave its reply and basically was non-committal about attending. And Reed, the militant group didn't say they weren't going, but said that they wanted to implement a proposal they agreed to from early July.
Ramy, thank you for that. We also have major developments to report out of Russia's war against Ukraine. Our monitors right now bring you this headline to start the week. For the first time, Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, confirmed his forces have moved into Russian territory for battle. Over the weekend, during a nightly address, Zelensky said the surprise cross-border offensive in Russia's Kursk region is his country's fight to, quote, push the war out into the aggressor's territory, close quote. Coming home to the United States and an all-out tragedy. Look at this. A house exploded in Maryland. 2 are dead. Our CBS teams in Baltimore report a gas leak is likely to blame, killing a contractor and the homeowner inside. The wreckage just looks like confetti there. Neighbor also injured, and 12 families in neighboring homes are also displaced at this hour. Those neighbors say the explosion was forceful enough. They say it felt like an earthquake or a bomb outside their windows. Jumping the map now to Texas, where that state's attorney general wants answers, and fast. He wants to know if a powerful company committed fraud and waste and improperly used taxpayer money. Talking about Ken Paxton, investigating alleged law violations as Hurricane Beryl pounded that region, leaving Texans in the dark without air conditioning. By the way, that was deadly. The company in the crosshairs, CenterPoint Energy. Let's jump the map now to video coming to us from Norman, Oklahoma, just south of Oklahoma City. And you can see it right there. Thousands of people right there trying to survive flash flooding from heavy rains. You can see water overflowing banks right there. And this is a condition that is also affecting another part of the country. Let's jump the map now to coastal areas of South Carolina. Rivers are still at major flood stage in the wake of Debbie. In fact, you're looking right there at what is left of the Edisto River overflowing its banks. That's just west of Charleston. Homes underwater in many places, and in other places, the water is reaching up to the gables of some homes. In fact, our crews are hearing from people who've lived there since birth.
The guy is right, my next door neighbor. He's been out here for almost 60 years, and he has never even seen it that high.
Flooded by what's now, but now concerned about what's next. So let's bring in Jessica with the weather.
Absolutely. For those communities who got hit heavy from Tropical Storm Debbie, we're still dealing with heavy showers throughout the next 24 hours, but not from a tropical storm. However, we are keeping a close eye on the tropics right now. The next named storm could be Ernesto, and right now it is still out well in the tropics, and we continue to keep a close eye on that as we head into the coming days. Right now, it's just south of us, all the way south of Puerto Rico, but better yet, let's get a good look at that on our maps right behind me. Here's what's going on for us. Right behind me, you're going to be able to see that storm starting to kind of cluster together just south of areas like Puerto Rico as it tracks its way closer to those islands throughout the next couple days. Here's the track right now. The good news is this storm is not expected to hit our east coast. If anything, it's actually going to continue to curl off into the Atlantic as we head into the next 72 hours. Still expected to hit a Category 1, though, so that will be the next storm. Like I mentioned, not impacting our east coast. However, we keep a close eye on our east coast because throughout the past 24 hours and throughout the next 24 hours, we continue to watch storms move across North Carolina and South Carolina, and that's causing a lot of issues with localized flooding in those communities. Keep in mind, communities like Wilmington all the way up into Morehead City, just along the Outer Banks, they've already received over 15 inches of rain in those local communities from Tropical Storm Debbie, and they're expected to get an additional 5 throughout the next 24 hours. So a slight risk right now for our severe weather outlook. We'll continue to keep a close eye on that region. Reed, it's been very active over there. We'll have more on that coming up in a bit.
3, 2, 1, ignition, and
Ignition and liftoff, the sights and sounds of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket firing off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on board 23 Starlink satellites. This is the 17th flight for this particular booster, and what a show it was in the sky. Speaking of shows, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Paris Olympics, and we got some bragging rights in the United States, but also we matched with another major world player, coast to coast, and our eye on things, all things worldwide. You're watching CBS News 24/7. Welcome back. The summer of wildfires, not exclusive only to the United States. Look at this video coming to us off of the screens. A major forest fire burning in Greece. It is forcing major evacuations around Athens. In fact, we understand more than 600 firefighters battling flames that are right now fueled by some pretty hot winds. That battle right there on the ground also being fought from the sky. We understand air tankers are going in there in Greece and dropping water on what is a fast-moving wildfire there. Meanwhile, on the U.S. map, a wildfire at the California-Nevada border. It's shutting down a huge stretch of major freeway just north of Lake Tahoe. And as we see with many of these fires in California, people are on the run, evacuation mode. In fact, this fire was caused by a car that caught on fire on the side of the road. The flames quickly jumped from the car to the dry brush right next to the freeway there, and then into the forest. So far, we can tell you 400 acres burned and counting. Not far from that fire, there's another raging fire southwest of Lake Tahoe in El Dorado National Forest. This one also forcing people to have to pack up and leave. So far, 1,900 acres burned. As firefighters say, they've got this one 18% contained. But just look at the conditions on the ground. Smoke rising from the fires, and then up in the sky, those billows of smoke causing air quality problems all over that region.
Absolutely, and those firefighters are working hard for that containment. Like we mentioned, it's at 18%. Now, the Park Fire, the fourth largest fire in California history, is at 38% containment. And yet the big issue still is the air quality as we extend anywhere from Northern California all the way up and along the West Coast into Oregon and Washington. All that gray that you see just next to me right now, that's what I want to focus on right now. This is the big weather story that's been the case for the past few weeks as those fires have continued to burn. Now, air quality alerts have been in effect for quite some time, but local community members still need to practice extreme caution, especially if you're pregnant, if you're older. Continue to use filters in your home, continue to drink plenty of water, and limit your time outside in those areas. Taking a look behind me real fast, here's our current air quality. Areas like Bend, Oregon, dealing with unhealthy category right now. We stretch all the way down into Northern California. This is just along Trinity County. We're also dealing with poor air quality in that community. Along the Central Valley, we're extending all the way up into Redding, California. Moderate air quality as we speak. Now, that's from the Park Fire. And mostly the winds are continuing to track that off into the east, as well as all the fires burning just to the north up into Oregon and Washington. But we continue to monitor that closely. The good news is heat risk map not looking bad in that region. We're actually starting to see some cooler conditions off into the West Coast. However, down into the south, anywhere from Houston, Texas, over into Dallas and stretching right over into states like Florida and Alabama, we are dealing with above average temperatures today and tomorrow. And taking a look at the next 6 to 10 days, the Climate Prediction Center is showing above normal conditions all throughout the south. There's that cooling setup that we see all the way along our West Coast. Reed?
All right, thanks. So if you are feeling that Olympics afterglow out there, you are not alone. 19 days of competition, and it was a lot of fun. 329 gold medal events to talk about. Next stop for the Games, Los Angeles. So it was fitting that during the Parade of Nations, none other than Tom Cruise rappelled from a roof as the Games set their sights on Tinseltown for the 2028 Olympic Summer Games. By the way, Team USA topped the medal count with 126, tying with China at 40 gold medals apiece. With the glow, there are some groans. U.S. gymnast Jordan Childs stripped of her bronze medal in that floor exercise. It was all over a technicality. Initially, she finished in 5th competition, so her coach appealed, saying her athletic difficulty score was undercredited, so judges adjusted that score. Then there's the big but that was hurled around the world. Olympic arbitrators ruled the appeal missed the 1-minute deadline. So USA Gymnastics devastated by the ruling. Teammate Simone Biles wrote on Instagram, quote, "Sending you so much love, Jordan, keep your chin up. Olympic champ, we love you," close quote. The U.S. Olympic Committee, by the way, they will appeal. Well, today, Olympians making their way back to the United States to some pretty warm welcomes, and you can hear the cheers there. Here's how CBS News Minnesota's Derek James covered Olympic gymnast Suni Lee's arrival.
A small but noisy crowd welcomed Olympian Suni Lee back to her home state of Minnesota Sunday, lining up to give her flowers.
Congratulations and welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a crowd of people who shared special connections with the now two-time Olympian.
Tremendously proud. She had taken her place as an icon in U.S. gymnastics.
From a man who shaped her early career.
I used to pick her up from school every day. It's hard to believe that in a year from now she's going to be internationally famous.
To girls who idolize her in the gym.
Getting to know her in the gym has been really helpful and inspiring for my gymnastics.
And for those who have seen Suni grow on the international stage.
She is literally the manifestation of every dream that they could have had, that could have been the possibility of being here in this country. And so, she represents more than just a hero and somebody who we love in sports. She represents all that we fight for, the freedoms and the opportunities we have in this country. I mean, it's big. It's big for us.
Many congratulations to Team USA and all athletes. When we come back, CBS News 24/7 with 1 week to go until the Democratic National Convention. We're talking security preps. Welcome back. X marks the spot for a conversation between two men who have not always seen eye to eye. We're talking about billionaire Elon Musk and former president and now candidate Donald Trump. They see streaming as the best place to have a conversation that is expected to be watched by millions tonight. The man trying to do whatever he can to keep Trump out of office is President Joe Biden. Here's what he told our Robert Costa exclusively on CBS Sunday Morning.
The stakes are that high to you?
I give you my word. I think they're that high. Mark my words. If he wins this this election, watch what happens. It's a danger. He's a genuine danger to American security. Look, we're at an inflection point in world history. We really are. The decisions we make in the last 3-4 years and the next 3 or 4 years are going to determine what the next 6 decades look like. And democracy is the key. And that's why I went down and made that speech at Johnson Center about the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is so out of whack, so out of whack. And so I propose that we limit terms to 18 years. So anyway, there's little regard by the MAGA Republicans for the political institutions. That's what holds this country together. That's what democracy is about. That's who we are as a nation.
Beating the drum about democracy. So Joe Biden says the best bet for democracy is Kamala Harris. Let's bring in CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro live in D.C. Okay, Aaron, Kamala just wrapped up touring several battleground states. She not only tried to sway voters, but she also picked up some campaign cash along the way. A New York Times poll shows Harris ahead of former President Donald Trump in 3 key states. We're talking about Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. She's ahead by 4 percentage points. That's an enviable position. What do you think she needs to do to maintain that lead?
Reed, good to be with you. Starting overall, she has to keep the base enthused and committed. This was a base, the Democratic Party, parts of it, were not really looking to this next election with much excitement when President Biden was the candidate. Now that Vice President Harris is in and is drawing big crowds that are roughly maybe take, more or less the same size as the crowds that Trump usually gets. She needs to keep them enthused with appearances, with rallies, with engagement with potentially celebrities and artists that seem to resonate with younger voters. And as we get into the final months, policy proposals, people that are on the fence that are looking to her and seeing what her differences with Donald Trump are on the economy, immigration, and other issues that come top of mind.
Aaron, I want to get your take on something because over the weekend, former President Trump falsely accused Kamala Harris and the campaign of using AI or artificial intelligence to exaggerate the size of her rallies. Any comment on that in our nation's capital today?
Well, we had colleagues that were at that specific rally in Detroit that took videos and noted the large crowd size in that specific Detroit rally. The campaign itself has not really engaged with this, just pointing to the videos that are already out there that are not AI generated, showing these big crowds and big enthusiasm for voters for Harris. But it is the first sign that Donald Trump is looking to lay the groundwork potentially to question the validity of Harris's kind of rise to the nomination. And it's a pattern of kind of what he did leading up to the 2020 election, where he continued to claim that it was, quote, stolen from him, kind of laying down and sowing doubt among his supporters about the realness of her candidacy and momentum.
And that is happening in the days running up to the Democratic National Convention 1 week from today. Aaron, thank you so much. We know you'll be watching that one closely. Okay, meanwhile, we're also looking ahead to next week with the start of the DNC. CBS News Chicago's Marissa Perlman filed this report for us there.
1 week from today, the DNC kicks off here in Chicago, and street closures and security precautions are already starting to take place. There will be a security perimeter around the two main convention sites here at the United Center and also at the McCormick Place. Once the security perimeter is built up over the next couple of days, there will be no cars or foot traffic allowed inside without proper credentials. Now, we spoke with former Chicago Police Superintendent. He says Chicago police are ready for this week, saying they need to prepare for the protests they expect and the ones they don't. Reporting outside of the United Center, I'm Marissa Perlman, CBS News.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, so this morning ahead of the DNC, Muslim leaders in Chicago reiterated calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. They're pointing out the Democratic leaders are listening, but they need to see the results in practice. Let's listen.
We do see a change, but the change is in tone and not in practice. What we need is real change, whereby we as American government, people who give billions and billions of dollars to Israel, we should exercise our influence and say enough is enough. No one has come up and said that yet. We want the leadership to have courage to say, because we fund this genocide and it's not right. So yes, with Kamala Harris, we are very hopeful, especially in the selection of the vice presidential candidates. She gives us some hope, but the results we are awaiting.
And they know that the eyes of the world are on Chicago. They're trying to harness that attention in the days ahead. This comes as CBS News is learning President Biden's top advisor for Mideast Affairs has tentative plans to fly to Egypt this week. He will attend hostage and ceasefire talks amid new signs of escalation in that region. Over the weekend, Hezbollah rockets damaged buildings in northern Israel, while Israel fired on targets in southern Lebanon. CBS News reporter Nicole Skanga reports from the White House.
Palestinians cleared rubble following an Israeli airstrike on a house in a refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip Monday. It comes as Israel braces for possible retaliatory attacks by Iran and its allies in Lebanon, following the recent killings of senior Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. On Sunday, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin ordered the USS Lincoln to get to the area faster. And in a rare announcement, the Pentagon also deployed the guided missile submarine, USS Georgia, to the region.
I hope that the threats of American president probably convince the Iranians to think twice.
Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert spoke with CBS News' Rami Inocencio.
If there is a war between Israel and Iran, it's going to be a war between Iran and the United States of America and Great Britain and France and maybe other European countries.
CBS News has learned President Biden's top advisor for Mideast Affairs, Brett McGurk, has tentative plans to fly to Egypt this week for a new round of ceasefire and hostage release negotiations. But citing in part Israel's deadly strike over the weekend on a Gaza school-turned-shelter that Israel says was also a terror command center, Hamas is non-committal about Thursday's talks. The group is focused on the proposal it agreed to from early July. Nicole Skanga, CBS News, the White House.
Okay, so let's jump the map now to Russia. Ukraine making its first big push into Russian territory. Russian forces are left scrambling after what was a surprise offensive. CBS News correspondent Ian Lee has a report from London.
Read, this weekend, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky finally broke his silence, saying the operation is to restore justice and to push the war on the aggressor's territory. While today, Russian President Vladimir Putin vowed to kick Ukrainian troops off Russian territory. He also blamed what he says are Ukraine's Western masters for creating the situation. The Kremlin believes this incursion could be to create a bargaining chip in future ceasefire negotiations. Now, currently, evacuations are ongoing in Russia's Belgorod region. Moscow says it's evacuated tens of thousands of civilians. It's been about a week now since Kyiv launched the largest attack into Russia since World War II, reportedly pushing up to 20 miles into the Kursk region while pitting thousands of elite Ukrainian soldiers up against weaker Russian defenders. Moscow is still scrambling reinforcements to halt the attack, and we're seeing videos posted online reportedly showing Ukrainian successes, like a destroyed Russian military column and Russian soldiers surrendering. The governor of Kursk says 28 settlements are currently under Ukrainian control. Moscow is also posting its own videos of Russian planes bombing Russian territory to push back this advance. But this attack has given the Ukrainians something they badly needed, a boost to morale. Read.
Ian Lee, thank you. Our monitors now take us to where Typhoon Maria has made landfall in the country's northwest region. You can see the water starting to creep up like a bad neighbor right there. Take a look at the flooding of the coastal city of Kuji. They are dealing with that water, and they know more is on the way. This is river water that's starting slowly to creep up over the banks of that river and onto the roadways that people need to be able to go home and to get supplies and to get first responders in and out. That typhoon is expected to bring record-breaking rainfall. So watching the tropics, we bring Jess in one more time.
Absolutely. Now back to our side of the hemisphere as we extend into the next 24 hours. We're going to continue to keep a close eye on the tropics all the way down close to Puerto Rico, where a Category 1 storm could be named relatively soon, a hurricane right around the corner. Right now it's still starting to form, and we see that just south of the islands closer to Puerto Rico, stretching over into the Dominican Republic too. Let's actually dive into that a little bit further. Right now we're keeping a super close eye on this specific system all the way down closer to, take a look at this. This is our tropical storm watch right now. This right here is about to start moving its way off into the east, all throughout the Lesser Antilles, all the way over into Puerto Rico, just within the next 24 hours. And as we watch the storm advance, we continue to keep a close eye on the strengthening of it because it's hitting warmer waters. And as it continues to do so, we're going to watch this become into a Category 1, still sweeping off closer to the Atlantic, potentially hitting Bermuda as we head into the next 72 hours and past that. But taking a look at Futurecast, it's not expected to hit our east coast. However, they're still dealing with active rain right now. Heavy thunderstorms expected all throughout South and North Carolina as we head into the next 24 hours. And the reason why I want to mention that, even though we were taking a look at the tropics, is because Tropical Storm Debbie brought in over 10 to 15 inches all along the outer bands right there, stretching into communities like Wilmington and Morehead City. And they're expected to receive an additional 4 within the next 24 hours with that severe weather outlook still in effect right now, Reed.
My goodness, our thoughts with them. Okay, so when we come back, we've got our eye on America. We are talking trash, folks, and it is not about sports. Why in one American city they're going through trash and what it has to say about the future of trash management in our country. We'll be back. Newly released police video, 911 calls and emails retelling the story of that 2022 school massacre in Uvalde, Texas. It killed 19 fourth graders and 2 teachers. The release follows a lawsuit by CBS News and other media organizations after officials refused to make those records public. Here's CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca.
A trove of documents released this weekend underscore law enforcement's failure to stop the massacre at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. Among the nearly 600 items released, police dash and body cam videos, documents, text messages, and phone calls.
The thing that's happening at Robb right now. Okay. My nephew.
Including a series of 911 calls from the shooter's uncle, pleading with first responders to let him help.
maybe he could listen to me, because he does listen to me. Maybe he could stand down or do something, just turn himself in. Oh my God, please. I mean, don't do nothing stupid.
I do have the uncle who is requesting to speak with somebody or to go to the location.
But by the time that first call came in, his nephew, the shooter, was already dead. The new documents showed that in 2018, detectives talked to the gunman, then an 8th grader, after classmates were concerned he was planning a school shooting. He admitted to police he was tired of being bullied and was fascinated with the Columbine shooting and wanted to do the same thing his senior year. According to police reports, the boy was taken to a hospital for evaluation.
Let me get a second medic.
The items released highlight the confusion and chaos on scene, including from former Uvalde School Police Chief Pete Arredondo.
What do you need,
as hundreds of officers waited more than 70 minutes to breach the classroom and kill the shooter. And in the aftermath of the shooting, text messages show officers concerned about the public criticism of the police response. In one text group, an officer asked, "Is there a way to get our pictures off the PD website for our safety?" Arredondo and another former officer were both indicted on multiple felony charges of child abandonment and endangerment, and both have pleaded not guilty. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Keller, Texas.
Let's jump the map out west, and you can see right there the orange glow in the smoke. At least one home destroyed after a car fire spreads to nearby brush along the California-Nevada border. Crews still right now battling this fire just north of Lake Tahoe. It broke out along very busy Interstate 80, especially busy during the weekends. The fire is now forced a nearby casino and trailer park in the area to evacuate. An elementary school canceled classes for the day. Once again, the headline out of California, wildfire season far from being over, Jess.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting that the Park Fire is still the 4th largest in this state's history. Is one of the largest we've seen. And another thing to mention too, just within the past 7 years, 9 out of the 10 largest wildfires have happened, and that's since the 1940s, when fire suppression really started happening in the state of California. The reason why I want to mention that in the first place is due to the fact that the air quality has been poor all throughout the Central Valley of California, stretching up into Oregon, where you see all that gray below me, all the way up into the state of Washington for 2 going on 3 weeks. We've been seeing these air quality alerts. Local community members anywhere from Bend, Oregon, stretching all the way up into northern Oregon, are dealing with some of the worst air quality right now. So you'll see right behind me our air quality as we head into the next couple hours, still in that unhealthy category, stretching over into Bend. We continue to keep that onshore breeze, which really helps along the coastline near Portland and Seattle. But as we stretch all the way down into California, notice all that yellow right there in the Central Valley. That's been the common trend for quite some time, and we continue to keep a close eye on that poor air quality because that surface smoke sweeps off into the east as we head into the next 24 hours. We'll continue to track this on Futurecast. For now, over to you, Reed.
It is our promise to you this day and every day. Community matters, and our Eye on America series puts us right where you live in your neighborhood. So today, we're talking trash out of California. In fact, the amount of garbage in the United States has really exploded since 1980. In fact, it's nearly doubled. And it significantly affects the quality of life in many of our American cities. CBS News senior national correspondent Mark Strassman shows you what San Francisco is doing about it.
Looks like construction debris, some household stuff.
In someone's bags of dumped trash.
You smell that?
Ramses Alvarez's team just found their treasure.
It looks like some W-2s.
A name with an address.
What you're doing here, though, is building a case.
Yeah. This is our evidence.
San Francisco's, like much of America, blighted by litter. Alvarez supervises these public works employees. Think of them as trash detectives, rooting through mounds of rubbish, block by block, bag by bag, trying to tie the trash to the trasher.
What'd you find?
It's like credit card applications.
It happens 24/7, 365. There's always illegal dumping in this city.
Surveillance video shows this guy unloading his truck onto the sidewalk. Fines can hit $1,000.
The goal of the program is more than just cleanup, it's accountability.
Yes. It's not okay to use the city as your trash can.
Talking trash nationally. There are an estimated 50 billion pieces of litter lying around on U.S. roads and waterways.
That comes out to roughly 150 pieces of litter for every person living in this country.
A trashed environment sends a powerful message, and it's not a pleasant one psychologically or socially or physically.
David Spiegel, a psychiatry professor at Stanford, says the trashing of America, images like this, breeds social isolation.
Social isolation is bad for your mental health, it's bad for your physical health, and they've actually linked it to depression.
San Francisco alone generates 5,000 tons of trash a day. Recology, one of the city's waste disposal companies, collects and separates most of it into 3 categories: landfill, recycling, and compost sold to fertilize nearby farms. But 18,000 tons of trash a year gets dumped on city streets. You walk out here every day.
Man, and it's going to be garbage.
Joffrey Simpson lives on this corner. It's one of 30 hot spots for dumping just in this one neighborhood. Who was doing this, do you know?
And I wouldn't know, man.
Yeah, but it ticks you off.
Constantly.
In a 2024 Lawn Starter survey of America's dirtiest cities, New York City's living conditions came out first, which means worst. San Francisco second, Jersey City third.
He's calling our Packer truck.
In San Francisco, many people dump to dodge trash collection fees paid by most owners and renters here.
We want to recycle and compost as much as possible.
Recology's Robert Reed has this reminder: do your part.
We all generate garbage. We all have a personal responsibility to take care of it, to put it in the right place.
People are good.
In this trash, no leads. All the personal mail torn to pieces. So that person's getting away with it.
Yeah, until next time.
And next time could be right around the corner. For Eye on America, Mark Strassman in San Francisco.
Well, the curtain just closed on the Olympic Summer Games in Paris, but as CBS's Tina Kraus reports, fans are already riled up about what's ahead 4 years from now in Los Angeles.
The sun has set on the Olympics in Paris. Workers are clearing the French capital and thousands of athletes heading home.
The whole event was safe, easy to get around. America's got a lot to live up to, quite honestly. I was impressed.
Los Angeles residents Tim and Joy Dolman were in Paris for Sunday's star-studded closing ceremony.
And the climax with Tom Cruise was fantastic. And the handoff to L.A.
When the Games head to L.A. in 2028, some wonder how California's largest city can compete.
We have issues, with infrastructure, but we'll come up with something good, I think, for in 4 years.
We don't have the same desserts. And many say the French ooh la la factor will be hard to beat.
Paris, I think it was the perfect, especially beach volleyball settings, like Eiffel in the back. Oh my God.
L.A. will become the 3rd city to host the Games 3 times.
We live here, so we're definitely going to go watch the Olympics in 4 years.
I'm not excited because I live here, and it's going to be a disruption.
Back in Paris, these sport-loving sisters from Houston say no matter who plays host, the spirit of humanity wins.
There's no enemies, there's no negative, no ill will. Everybody is like brothers and sisters.
A little magic on the world's biggest stage, playing out every 4 years. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
That magic coming to La La Land. And hey, we understand the Olympic flag is about to land in Los Angeles. Turn a page, everybody. That's it for CBS News 24/7. Thanks for watching on Monday. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place.